Good evening. I'd like to call the February 27, 2024 regular board meeting of the Richland Board of Trustees to order. The agenda for tonight's meeting has been published and made available publicly. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda?
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda for the February 27th, 2024 regular board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was Ms. McFadden. The motion has been made by Lindsay Agostini and seconded by LaShonda McFadden to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, let's vote, and we're going to have to vote by hand because was everybody able to get in? Yeah, we're going to have to do a hand vote. Okay.
Call all those in favor.
Thank you. Call all of those in favor. Please raise your right hand.
Madam Secretary, I vote in the affirmative.
And thank you so much, Mr. Trapp. Our chair, Mr. Trapp, is going to be joining us online, and our vice chair is not here this evening. So the vote is 6 yes and 0 no and 1 not present. The motion passes. We're going to move to item 3.1, the executive session. May I please have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Agostini.
I move to convene an executive session to discuss student appeals, student admission request into the adults education program, contractual matter regarding the purchase and/or sale of property, a personnel matter regarding employment contracts, employment recommendations and certified releases, and a personnel matter regarding the superintendent's evaluation goal.
Thank you. Is there a second? The motion has been made by Ms. Agostini and seconded by Dr. Scott to go into executive session. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. We're going to have to take a hand vote again. Those in favor, please vote. We have Mr. Trapp.
I vote in the affirmative.
Okay, so we have 6 yes, 0 no, and 1 not present. The board will now enter into executive session. All right. May I please have a motion to end executive session?
Madam Secretary.
Yes, Ms. Agostini.
I move that the board adjourn executive session at 6:51 p.m.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Agostini and seconded by Dr. Scott to end executive session at 6:51 p.m. and to resume the public session. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will resume public session. We will now move on to the inspirational moment and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Trapp will introduce tonight's guests, and Mr. Trapp is joining us online tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. From Bethel Hanbury Elementary School, we have Mrs. Portee and her chorus class.
Good evening, Chairman Trapp, members of the board, Dr. Moore. I'm Shannon Holland. I'm the principal at Bethel Hanbury, and I bring to you tonight the sounds of Bethel Hanbury. Leading our chorus is an amazing lady who has been in education for 42 years, and 35 of them have been with Bethel Hanbury. As they get settled, we will be singing, they will be singing As You Walk Through the World.
Thank you so much to Bethel Hamberry and to Ms. Portee. We will now move on to the agenda item in this section, which is a recognition of state and national award recipients within our district. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I would like to ask the board members to join me in front of the table as we recognize some of our staff members for their outstanding work.
Board members, Dr. Moore, our first recognition tonight honors a Hall of Fame music career. Decades of musical genius have landed Lisa Rayner in the South Carolina Music Educators Association Hall of Fame. Rayner is in her 30th year of teaching, the last 28 of which been as music specialist at Pontiac Elementary School in Richland School District 2. At Pontiac, she teaches general music to 800 students in the traditional grades K through 5 classrooms, as well as the Montessori Magnet mixed grade classrooms. She also directs the Pontiac 4th and 5th grade chorus after school. And just recently, she was the one and only person officially inducted into the Hall of Fame in front of her peers at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center. Lisa says, quote, "Richland, too, has always been supportive of the arts programs and their teachers, allowing us to participate in the state and national association events. Without that support professionally, I would not have been able to achieve what I've bestowed with this honor," end quote. She's the assistant director of award-winning Tri-District Arts Consortium. It's called TRIDAC, and in addition, the summer intensive program for students gifted and talented in the performing and creative arts from across the Midlands. She's a member of many associations I will not read to you at this time, but I'd like to welcome Lisa Rayner, her assistant principal, Dr. Jesse Williams, and our fine arts coordinator, Wendy Campbell, up front to be recognized.
Thank you. I think it's going to be beautiful.
February is National Magnet Schools Month, and boy, do we have some honors in that category tonight. 3 schools in Richland School District 2 are 2024 Magnet Schools of America Merit Award winners. MCA is the National Association for Magnet and Theme-Based Schools. Ridgeview High School and Spring Valley High School were selected as top Magnet Schools of Excellence. Sandlapper Elementary School was selected as a Magnet School of Distinction. The Magnet School of Excellence is the top merit award category and is only awarded to a select group of magnet schools. The Magnet School of Distinction is the second highest award of recognition. So let's start with Ridgeview. Ridgeview High School has 2 magnet programs that have been recognized as schools of excellence. The Scholars Academy for Business and Law Magnet Program, a school within a school magnet, is an energetic, smaller learning community of higher motivated students committed to achieving the goals of a challenging academic curriculum focused on law and business through a 4-year honors advanced placement track. Scholars Academy provides rigorous academic and experiential learning opportunities necessary to help participants become knowledgeable professionals in the fields of business and law. Their second, the Institute of Health Science, houses the BioHealth Science Magnet and Allied Health Science Magnet. BioHealth is designed for highly motivated honor students with interests directed towards careers in health professions. Allied Health Sciences is designed for highly motivated college prep students with interests directed towards careers in health science professions. Ridgeview is a nationally certified demonstration magnet school. The list goes on and on. So tonight from Ridgeview High School, we have Principal Dr. Brenda Mack and Magnet Directors Nicole Walker and Jennifer McLeod joining us. Come on up, ladies. Three, two, one. Perfect.
Yes, they have a basketball game tomorrow night. Boys and girls are competing for the lower class.
State semifinals.
Semifinals, and we project that they will win and compete on Saturday for the state championship and bring that trophy home to Richland to where it belongs.
No pressure, Ridgeview. Spring Valley High School offers the Discovery School Within a School Magnet Program. Discovery is a rigorous honors advanced placement four-year program designed for students with special motivation, interest, and aptitude, and a commitment to the study of science and math. Students focused on problem-based learning with an emphasis on both the theory and application of science and mathematics. Exploration is a magnet program designed for motivated college-bound students with a focus on forensic science. Critical thinking skills are taught through problem-based learning strategies, and students complete a 200-hour internship between their junior and senior year in a career that they're interested in pursuing in college and beyond. Spring Valley is also a nationally certified demonstration magnet. Jeff Tremonti could not be here tonight, but on his behalf is Assistant Principal Mr. Marion Kelly and Magnet Director Dr. Michelle Wyatt. Come forward, guys. Three, two, one. Perfect. Good, Barbara. All right. And last but certainly not least, Sandlapper Elementary School is a computer science immersion school. Sandlapper offers a full computer science integrated curriculum and provides computer science coding experiences to students as early as kindergarten. The purpose of this program is to prepare students in work, life, and citizenship by providing computer science coding skills to become effective collaborators and communicators, computational and creative thinkers, and problem solvers with a global perspective. That's a lot for elementary school. The magnet theme is integrated throughout the school's core classes using project-based computer science learning units. CSIS is a whole school magnet that was the 2022 National New and Emerging Magnet School of Excellence. Now, on behalf of Sandlapper, I'd like to invite, where'd they go? Dawn Smith, their assistant principal, and Lena Zimmerman, their lead magnet teacher. Come on forward, ladies. Three, two, one. You moved on me. And in conclusion, this is not the only time these folks will be honored. Principals and magnet teachers will be formally recognized at the Magnet Schools of America 40th National Conference coming up in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triquetta, and congratulations to all of our award recipients tonight. Board members, are there any comments?
All right, no comments. We will move on to item 6.1. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda for the February 27th, 2024 board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Lindsay Agostini and seconded by Nikki Porter. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. Motion carries, 6 yes, 0 no. We will now move on to public participation. We have 2 individuals that have signed up for public participation to address the board. You will be given 3 minutes to address the board. To assist with timing, the lights on the table in front of me will change colors from green to yellow to red. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. When your time is up, the light will turn red, and you will hear an audible tone indicating that your time to speak has expired. Before we begin, I want to remind you that our meetings are streamed live and recorded. According to policy BEDH, comments from the public should not include gossip, defamatory words, abusive or vulgar language. The policy also prohibits in the public session, any expression of personal complaints about individual school personnel or any other person connected to the school system. Specific students or personnel issues should be handled through the appropriate procedures as indicated in the district policy. Questions asked during public participation typically will be referred to a staff member for a response at a later time. At this time, we will call on Mary Paul Hoyle.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Dr. Mary Paul Hoyle, and I'm a retired Richland II teacher. I'm here to answer a question that you asked last year, and I don't believe it was truly ever addressed. Why do teachers retire or leave as soon as they can? I'm here to answer that question after having retired in June after 28 years. I will address this question tonight without fear of retaliation, since I was never given the requested district exit interview. I would like to discuss more with you in the event that there's that possibility. I will send an email and share some more detail that I don't want to share here tonight. I taught for 17 years here in Richland II, and I completed my national board certification twice and my doctorate. My study was a very strong passion of mine as it addressed the impact of conscious discipline on preschool classrooms and students. I had some great experiences during my career, but I also had some disappointing experiences as well. Teachers, TAs, school staff work very hard every day to create a school family. Unfortunately, we're often not treated as professionals and quite honestly don't feel safe. Someone referred to it recently as doormats, and I kind of felt that. I've been targeted, harassed, retaliated against, not by everybody, please don't think that, and ignored by former administrators and district supervisors, and these experiences include some of these situations. As I stated, I worked on my doctorate and completed it in conscious discipline. I was not used as a resource for the district. I know that that's coming out now, and I completed that in 2016. So I was not given that opportunity, as I asked, to share my data, my very hard-earned study, to share with the district. I was never afforded the opportunity to share within the district, and I think we can do better, be better stewards of the money and the resources that we have here in the district. I was visited quite often by district supervisors, more often than other people within the grade level, and when I asked if there were any concerns about me so that I could grow and improve, I was never given a reason, and that consistent visit continued until one person retired from the district. My last year, I was observed twice by my district supervisor. These days were Halloween and Valentine's Day. Yeah. While my assistant and I maintained instructional expectations, exceeded them, honestly, on those kinds of days, I was given inaccurate and low scores on both observations. One of the final points, school employees are not allowed to take days before or after a holiday without special permission. I understand. I've complied, and despite seeing several district employees who take those numerous vacations that coincide with district holidays. When my father died very unexpectedly the day before Christmas break, I literally was nervous about being out. We care about our students. I still say that as now, and I see my yellow. But we are not superheroes. We are human with families. When I had any negative feedback, I asked for somebody to come in and model it for me, and it was never done. So it leads me to wonder, Can they do it? They are our leaders, and we need to do better for our students. We all deserve better. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I would love to sit down and talk with whoever would like to speak with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will now have Mr. Jarvis Wright. Mr. Jarvis Wright. All right, the board will move on to discuss the items or vote on the items for executive session. May I please have a motion regarding student appeals?
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
I move to uphold the administration's recommendation for student number 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Ms. McFadden and seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please take a vote. The vote is 3 yes, 3 no. The motion fails.
Madam Secretary? I would like to make a motion for student number 1 to attend Blythewood Academy.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Dr. Scott and seconded by Ms. Porter. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 5 yes and 1 no. The motion carries. May I please have a motion for student number 2?
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
I move that we uphold the administration's decision for student number 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. McFadden and seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 2 yes and 4 no. The motion fails. May I please have a motion for student number 2?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Dr. Scott?
I move that we send student number 2 to Blythewood Academy.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Dr. Scott and seconded by Ms. Porter. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Agostini?
The appeal was for Blythewood Academy. That was what we just voted on to fail. The motion was to uphold the school district's decision to send student number 2 to Blythewood Academy. We can continue on, but that was what the student was appealing, was being sent to Blythewood Academy.
Thank you.
Madam Chair? Oh, okay. I'm good. I see that they're working on it.
Madam Chair, point of order. The motion that she's making is the exact motion that was just made. So do we need this motion?
Madam Chair, yes, we do need to keep it because that last motion failed, so we'll move on with this motion.
The motion carries 6 yes, 0 no.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question because we just had this exact same motion and it failed. The motion was made again and it passed.
Yes. So Ms. Agostini clarified that it was the same. I'll be honest, I misread in my notes, so I thought you were upholding something else. So that was, for me, that was my mistake.
So is that consistent across the board? Because there was only 2 people who voted for that. Now we have 6 that voted for the exact same motion that was already made. I'm kind of...
Madam Chair.
Hold on, are you finished, Ms. McFadden? Yes, Ms. Agostini.
Technically, they were 2 different motions. The outcome is the same, but there were 2 different motions made. One was to uphold the district's decision. The second one was to send the student to Blythewood Academy. So the motions were different, yet the result is the same.
I don't agree with that. That the administration's decision was to move the student to Blythewood Academy. That was what administration had suggested, and that's what we voted on. So basically, we're saying that we're not going to uphold the administration's decision, but then we're going to turn around and send them to Blythewood Academy anyway. So are we upholding administration's decision, or are we not?
The motion says we're going to move to send the student number 2 to Blythewood Academy.
That was the administration's decision.
Correct. May I have a motion for student number 3?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Ms. Porter.
I move that we send student number 3 to Blythewood Academy.
Second.
The motion has been made for student number 3 to go to Blythewood Academy by Ms. Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. That should say Ms. Porter. The motion carries 4 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain. May I please have a motion for student number 4?
Point of order. I would like to make a comment. Before coming out here, I was encouraged for, during executive session, to state what I would be saying.
Ms. McFadden,
what I would be saying as
Ms.
far as the
McFadden,
appeals.
A
I
point of
decided-
order, your point of order has to say something that you are, and it has to be approved by the chair.
So, point of privilege. So I would like to say that I decided not to expel or to let them know exactly how I was going
Ms.
to.
McFadden, we are going to move on to student number 4.
Yes, ma'am, but I would like to make a session as to what just happened with the vote, that we decided not to vote for administration. I think it's important for the public to hear. I
think
decided
that
not to.
we've already cleared that up, Ms. McFadden. May I please have a motion for student number 4?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Agostini,
I move that student number 4 attend Blythewood Academy.
is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Agostini and seconded by Ms. Porter. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
For student number 4,
Yes, it is.
go ahead.
I did not divulge what I was going to say or how I was going to.
Ms. McFadden, your comment has to be germane to the actual motion, not to say about the previous, what we discussed previously.
Well, I'm going to talk about this particular person. I didn't divulge what I was going to say as far as whether I was going to uphold or not uphold, because we've been told not to.
Correct.
And so the board members did not know how it was going to go.
Ms.
because we're not
McFadden, your
supposed to.
comments have to be germane to upholding the administration's recommendation for the student that we're currently on.
Yes, so I am deciding that I'm not going to I'm going to abstain from this simply because the process that we're not supposed to discuss and let each other know, so we won't know the votes of each other. And so that is what happened. We're not supposed to discuss how we're going to vote in executive session. And so I was told by one of my
So
colleagues
may I
that if
please
I
call for
said
the
something,
vote?
then they were going to
You
challenge.
cannot speak any more now that
Thank
the
you
vote
so
has been
much.
called.
I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
The motion carries 5 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain. May I please have a motion regarding student admission requests into the district's adult ed program?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Dr. Scott.
one second. I move to approve the student admission request into the district's adult education program for students 1 through 6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made by Dr. Scott and seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 0 no. The motion carries. May I please have a motion for 8.3 regarding the personnel matter regarding employment contracts?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Ms. Porter.
I move that we accept the recommended action regarding the district's employment contracts.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Agostini.
under this employment contract, the reason why I'm not going to be able to support this change tonight is it's in regard to the teacher contract, where state statute says that teachers don't need to be notified until August 15th of their assignment location. As Richland 2 has now moved to a year-round modified calendar and our school starts August 7th, and teachers are assigned, or at the end of July, they're supposed to report to school, I would like to see that the contract be amended so that teachers are notified prior to the first day of school where they're supposed to be teaching. So that's why I will not support this change. Thank you.
Is there any,
Madam Secretary,
Dr. Scott?
I will be supporting this as someone who worked in the school for 30-plus years. When we sign contracts in April, we know exactly where we're going to be working the previous year. However, this is the key point. When you sign contracts to work for the district, not for any particular school. So that's why we'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 5 yes, 1 no. The motion carries. May I please have a motion on the personnel matter? Oh, no, I'm sorry. May I please have a motion regarding employment recommendations and certified releases?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Ms. Agostini?
I move to approve the employment recommendations and certified releases.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Agostini and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. Sorry, the vote is 6 yes, 0 no. Motion carries. May I please have a motion on the personnel matter regarding the superintendent's evaluation goal?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Ms. Porter?
I move to approve the superintendent's evaluation goal.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Nikki Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, board members, please vote. The vote is 6 yes, 0 no, motion carries. We will now move to item 9.1 for no action required. The agenda item in this section is a revision to policy BBA, board powers and duties. Dr. Moore?
Madam Secretary, I will ask Dr. Marshall Franklin, our Deputy Superintendent, to present the update to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Madam Secretary, members of the board, at the previous board meeting, there was a conversation about policy BBBA, board powers and duties, specifically the visits to schools section. So during that conversation, the board members shared their thoughts about revisions that could be made to the policy. Per the discussion, it was the pleasure of the board to strike the expectation that board members make advance arrangements with the superintendent or principal prior to visiting a school. And so the draft that district administration brings tonight reflects that. District administration has also inserted an option for board members who elect to provide advance notice, as well as an expectation for board members to notify the principal upon their arrival to the school if they don't give advance notice.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Agostini?
Thank you, and thank you so much for the revision. After looking at this, I have one other thought that I would like for the board members to consider based upon state statute section 59-1990, where it says the Board of Trustees shall also visit schools. So it says that we may, it's an expectation of us. So what I would like to do for the beginning paragraph, where it now reads, board members may make visits to schools or classrooms, strike the may make visits to school or classrooms and strike that and add are expected to visit schools and classrooms. Do I need a motion?
There is consensus. I don't know that a motion is required. There's consensus to make that change.
It's under no action requested. She's just making a suggestion, correct? Okay.
Correct. And if it's the pleasure of the board to make that change, when we bring the policy back for a second reading and voting, we can strike may make and insert are expected to.
Is there any? Okay. All right.
No other comments?
Thank you, Dr.
We will now move on to new business, no action requested. The agenda item in this section is regarding the academic update. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I will ask Mrs. Gregory, our Chief Instructional Officer, to present the update to the board.
Hi. Good evening, Madam Secretary, board members, Dr. Moore. The academics team has prepared an update for you tonight. Oops, about to go too far. When we were here with you on September the 12th, our team shared a presentation on elementary achievement data, and on September 26th, high school achievement data. If you'll see on the screen, we provided information about testing background information, achievement results, COVID impact and confounding variables, and shared academic action plans for each level, elementary, middle, and high. You may remember that we identified math as our district focused and priority due to low achievement data in mathematics across levels. At the same time, we shared action plans to address academic achievement at elementary, middle, and high. Note that in recent years, our focus has been on ELA and early literacy grounded in the science of reading. Data from our school report card shows that this work has yielded good results. When 22-23 state achievement data were received in the late summer, we immediately disaggregated that data to identify district strengths and areas for improvement, and again, we identified mathematics as our priority. Throughout September, we held individual data conversations with every school and center to identify specific needs for each school, drilling down to the classroom and student level data. This also helped us identify additional resources and professional learning needs for schools as the school year began. What we have here on the next two slides will provide a snapshot of the work with schools from the elementary and secondary teams throughout the fall and winter. As we provide an update for you, note that we do not have summative data test scores mid-year, but we do have data on the work, the elementary and secondary teams, along with trends and patterns that we have identified from our work in schools. Most recently in January, early February, we also conducted winter data conversations with each school and center, which focused on monitoring the work in and with schools, especially around mathematics. Mr. Arthur Newton, who is our elementary director, will share with you our trends and patterns at the elementary level. Mr. Newton.
Good evening, Madam Chair, other distinguished board members, and Dr. Moore. Excuse me, this didn't change. Okay, there we go. What's working well? Increased math time to 75 minutes daily, increased use of academic vocabulary and resources, use of digital and actual manipulatives. The academic vocabulary I will connect in a moment. Targeted math professional development for teachers and administrators. PD series for elementary assistant principals and principals throughout the fall and winter. The purpose was to build their capacity to work with their teachers in the area of mathematics. 3, additional math coaches provide an extra layer of support for 12 schools through the DoD grant. Those schools are Bethel, Lake Carolina Lower and Upper, Langford, Bridge Creek, Round Top, San Lapper, Catawba Trail, Pontiac, and Rice Creek. What are the areas of improvement? Across all grades, using the math curriculum with fidelity by teaching all components. I'm going to show you what I mean by this in a moment. Small group instruction, providing additional professional development in that area, additional modeling, classroom learning labs, and as we know, this helps us close the achievement gap. As we talk about mathematics, you probably said, this is not how I was taught. Note that Richland 2's math curriculum is based on the state's mathematics standards, also is based on evidence-based research. Math instruction is different from when we were in school. South Carolina standards are titled South Carolina College and Career Ready Standards for Mathematics. They were designed to help students to think mathematically, where they are able to transfer and apply their math knowledge to new and different situations. The CRA model is how we teach mathematics. It incorporates best practices for teaching mathematics according to evidence-based research. Now let me connect the dots. Math instruction is sequential. Each stage builds on the previous stage. We use CRA model to teach the components of the math curriculum. Concrete, the doing stage. This involves the physical manipulation of objects. Representational, the seeing stage, using images to represent objects to solve math problems. And of course, abstract, the symbolic stage, using only numbers or symbols to solve math problems. Many of us were taught the abstract level. You can intertwine all three components at any time. However, if you have only been taught at the abstract level, you do not have anything to go back to. I will share an example in a moment. These are the components of an elementary math lesson, and within the components you can see concrete, representational, and abstract throughout the lesson. You can see how the components follow the CRA model. This is very similar to middle and high school, but the component names are different. You have examples of each one of the components in your board packet. For these purposes, I'm going to select one to show you. In the slides, you can see how the components of an elementary math lesson fit into the CRA model. This component is at the end of an elementary lesson. Think and Grow, modeling real life. Concrete here would be if the teacher went back to using fraction bars or fraction tiles with students. Representational is the number line. Abstract are the problems there at the bottom. You can see where this could have been problematic when we were virtual. At this time, I'm going to transition to Ms. Atkinson and let her share the secondary trends and patterns.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Moore. I am going to share with you, as Mr. Newton said, middle school trends and patterns, what is working well as of today. We have increased time for mathematics before, during, and after school for mathematics. And you may be thinking, how do you increase time on a middle school bell schedule during the day? Well, that is our second bullet. Using ESSER funds, we have recruited retired math teachers to come into our middle schools 3 to 4 days a week for 2 hours a day to tutor our students that we know are struggling with some basic fundamental math gaps. They are being, for lack of a better word, pulled from their exploratory class for 30 minutes several times a week, because a number of our students, even though we have offered early bird, which is the before school, and the extended day, which is after school, that still does not help us with some of our students that cannot get there before or after school. So we wanted to make sure that we added some extra time during the day, and our retired math teachers, thank goodness, have risen to the call. And all 7 of our middle schools do have at least one tutor that's coming several days a week. We also have increased our classroom observations and coaching opportunities with feedback, because we know the coaching and the feedback is essential when we go into a classroom teacher's room and observe them. We want to tell them what they're doing well, and then we also want to talk about some ways we can support them in areas perhaps where they are struggling. We also have expanded teacher and student resources with professional learning. We have used ESSER funds to make sure that all of our middle school teachers have gone through the Texas Instrument training so they know how to use calculators effectively in their classroom. We also purchased with ESSER funds calculators so that every middle school math teacher has a set of 30 calculators and charging stations, along with the software that they can use to project on their ClearTouch board so students can see what the teacher is doing on their calculator, and then they can follow their teacher's lead. We also are utilizing Math and Algebra Nation, which is a comprehensive supplemental math resource developed for South Carolina, and the State Department actually is paying for that resource out of their budget. So we have that for middle school teachers, and they are utilizing that before, during, and after school mathematics as well, and as a part of their instructional day. Math Nation and Algebra Nation has video components. It has a tutoring component 7 days a week. Students can go in and choose the tutor they would like to tutor them virtually. The tutors also speak in several different languages, so the student can go in, if they are a Spanish speaker, and choose a tutor that speaks Spanish. It also has a component that provides professional development for our math teachers. They can go in and watch an expert teach a standard. And when you think about some of our math teachers that are non-traditional or international, some of them have not had the math methods that those of us that went through a traditional program have had. So it has a teacher component that's very supportive there as well. What are areas for improvement? As Mr. Newton said, making sure we are teaching the math curriculum with fidelity and using all components. We have a common math textbook from kindergarten all the way through algebra. So our students are very familiar with the language that the textbook uses and the layout of the lesson. The next one I think is the most important, continuing to recruit and retain mathematics teachers. Every child in Richland 2 deserves a high-quality mathematics teacher, and that is an area that we are working to improve on. Last, as Mr. Newton mentioned, also at the secondary level, we are beginning to look at using small group instruction at the middle and possibly high school level. Again, another opportunity to pull a small group of children that are doing well with math and we can accelerate them, or a group of students that perhaps just needs a little extra push or time from their teacher. Next, we'll move on to high school. What is going well? We have been providing, we being the secondary team, has been providing intense support to our underperforming high schools. The secondary academics team is in those schools every Tuesday, working with teachers, providing professional learning, answering questions, supporting them and coaching them in a number of ways. We also have had several of our high schools have adjusted second semester teacher placement, where they realized that they had a veteran teacher that was maybe very strong in the algebra. They asked that teacher if they would be willing to go teach an algebra class and maybe give up that pre-cal section, because principals realized that some of our students needed more experienced teachers teaching our EOC class, which of course you remember is Algebra 1. We also, at the high school level, have expanded student and teacher resources that include professional development. All of our high school teachers also received training from Texas Instruments back in June, and the group of teachers that went through the training in June said, all of our high school teachers need this. Can we get more training? So we brought them back in August and at our October professional development times. We also ordered calculators to make sure that every high school math class had 30 calculators, TI Inspire, with charging stations. And they also have the software that can project on their Clear Touch, and again, so students can see how the teacher's working with the calculator, and then they can work with the calculator. As Mr. Newton talked about, you know, when I was in school, we didn't use calculators. But we have to recognize we're purpose-driven and future-ready. Our children need to know how to use a calculator, not just for a test, but for their career, whether it's military, whether it's college, or whether it's go right into the workforce. We also continued this year to offer virtual tutoring 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, from 5 to 6 p.m. Each of our high schools have a day, and of course one high school we had doubled up, so we were able to offer additional sessions for algebra, for foundations, for English, and that started back in the fall and will continue until the first week of May. We also are continuing to conduct our regular graduation rate meetings with our career readiness check-ins as well. Areas of improvement, again, continuing to use our math curriculum and teach it with fidelity with all components, expanding professional learning opportunities and modeling for teachers who perhaps have struggling students and they need to know how to work with a small group, because our middle and high school teachers were not trained with small groups when they were in college. So again, our team going in and showing them how to use their data for a small group and then doing a model lesson. We are seeking to bring in some professional learning as well for our middle and high school teachers, as I mentioned a few moments ago. And last but not least, as I said a few moments ago, continuing to recruit and retain mathematics teachers. So every high school student in Richland 2 has a high-quality mathematics teacher in their class every day delivering instruction. And I'll turn it back over to Ms. Gregory.
We repeatedly talked about the components of the math curriculum. So at your places, you'll see that you have a sample, and this was in your packet, that shows you all the components that Mr. Newton shared on the table. And as we said, in middle and high school, they have different names. But again, this gives you a sample so that you have a visual so that you can see what each one looks like. So as we have talked about the trends and patterns, what we're seeing, what's going well, areas for improvement, we continue to have these confounded variables where, again, teacher vacancies, especially in the areas of mathematics, science, and SPED. Addressing learning gaps based on data points. We've talked a lot about time, trying to find every bit of time we can, before school, during school, after school. Saturday, middle schools are running Saturday academies. We are actually trying to prioritize our retired teachers and leveraging them for a lot of support to help us address learning gaps. And then the last one, experiencing chronic student absenteeism. As it is going down, it is still on the radar. So those are our confounding variables. After we talked to you in September, we made some mid-course, or we made some corrections, and these are some things that we learned along the way and put into place. We learned that we need to continue to refine practices and to provide consistency with our expectations, and we worked on this in late September and October to make sure common expectations, again, were reinforced about pacing, lesson plans, use of the math workbooks and journals, components that we talked to you about tonight of the math lessons, use of math manipulatives, and those are just a few. Conducted regular math classroom fidelity checks, and the plans that we talked to you about in September, we talked a lot about observations, going into classrooms, giving them feedback. But as we move further along, we also pulled out and conducted regular math classroom fidelity checks. And you will see those in those data tables that we provided for you at the opening, so you can see some of the work that our teams are doing. And we started those in October, and they are ongoing. At the elementary level, they usually, Mr. Newton and I go in and we do a whole school blitz and give feedback going into every single classroom. In middle and high school, it's more departmental. But again, at the elementary level, it is usually an entire school blitz. We added a math professional learning series for our principals. We realized that we really needed to build their capacity so they knew what to look for when they go in classrooms. And we have done that with our CES, our APIs, the elementary assistant principals. But that was a 4-part series that started in October and ran through January. And I think it went very well, taking them through the components, the CRA model, helping them know what to look for in a classroom. And then lastly, we added training for our teaching assistants and guest teachers. In late September through February, we have trained 250 guest teachers, 218 TAs, and also 116 office professionals. And what we realized is they needed training, not necessarily in mathematics. We trained them in classroom management, de-escalation, diversity, and much more. And many times you may have a long-term sub. You may have a TA for a virtual teacher that is in charge of a classroom. So Dr. Foster and I have had conversations also about increasing the onboarding of certain groups that are in our classrooms and working with our students. And so that is a mid-course correction that we also realized and have made and will continue to grow. And then lastly, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Or as we have done in the past, if you'd like us to go deeper, we will be happy to do small group meetings with you as we have done in the past. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Gregory, and your team for your update. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
Madam Secretary,
Dr. Scott?
just one question. You talked about the training that you're providing for the guest teachers and the teacher assistants. Are you also providing CPI and CPR training for the guest teachers and TAs as well?
I know that there is CPI training. Do you want to address that, or we can get back to you with an answer on that? That has not been part of the training that we have provided. It has been mainly classroom and de-escalation, but I know that we do have CPI training for, I don't know about guest teachers, but I know we do for TAs, so we can get back to you with an answer on that.
Yes, if you could get back with,
Be happy to.
as well as CPR.
Okay. CPR
Yes.
and CPI.
Yes, thank you.
Glad to do that. Anybody else?
Madam Secretary?
Go ahead, Ms. Agostini.
I have a question regarding the elementary trends and patterns, and we're talking about the 3 additional math coaches, and you read off a list of schools. The list, that was from, how were those schools determined, I guess is my question.
Department of Defense grants, it would be the number of military families.
Identified by the number of military, so not necessarily.
All have to have at least 10% military-connected families.
Okay, but so, yeah, and my question was, that we're not necessarily using, well, we can't use it because, of course, it's a grant, but those are not schools that are identified that have the most significant need for reinforcement for a math coach.
We asked the same question. We would love for all of our elementary schools to have a math coach.
But the great benefit is that we can use our current staff more in other locations because of their support.
In other words, our content specialists, they work very closely with our content specialists and train, do the same professional learning so that we are consistent, so that we're one team.
I understand exactly what you're saying, yeah, that we can use our resources in a different capacity since we, at those schools, we have those 3. And I guess when we're talking about that we don't have any data to see how we've progressed so far, what about the benchmarking? I mean, is that not something that we've already done so we can see?
That is a good question. It is formative data, and formative data is used for instructional purposes, and once you share it, it becomes summative data.
I'm not quite sure that I understand what that actually means. I'm thinking data is data, and why can't we see the progression, or, you know, whether we've grown or what our shortcomings still are?
So really the purpose of the formative data is to inform instruction, to help teachers see which standards they need to teach or they need to reteach. It is different from summative data. That's the best way I know how to explain it. Dr. Moore?
I understand what you're saying, but somehow I still think it could be beneficial to have the information shared on, you know, over past years, how we progressed, but I understand.
And also, once it is shared as summative data, many times teachers feel like it is punitive.
I would not be looking for teacher-specific. I'm looking for district-specific or school-specific information, not to identify one classroom or one teacher versus another.
Madam Secretary? Yes. So I had a question about the Math Nation or Algebra Nation. Is that free online tutoring for just middle schools, or do all of our schools have access to it, middle and high?
They have it for grades 6 through 8. They also have it for algebra at the high school level.
Okay, and they're able to log in and access that at all hours? It doesn't cut off? Okay. And then I was also concerned about the ESSER funds for those. There were a number of positions that you had mentioned that were funded through ESSER. And so what do we plan to do when those funds are gone? Do we have a plan for those positions? Because this is math. and that is not reoccurring money, so.
Our ESSER funds that are paying for early bird and extended day, and of course now our retired teachers, we are using ESSER funds there. That is something we'll have to talk about in the budget process. Our middle school principals meet tomorrow, and that's one of the things they have on their list is how will we be able to continue with the extra support that we know our students need because of the gaps that they have specifically in math.
Okay, and you're speaking to the principals because you want them to use their school funds for that?
I'm sorry, can you ask me that one more time? I just didn't hear you.
You're saying you're having this discussion with the principals because you want them to see how they can use their school allocated funds for that?
Well, they'll look at their school allocated funds, but they also do budget proposals that come to the district. And
Okay.
what do they want as a middle school team? Are they wanting to continue early bird and extended day? Do they want to continue tutoring during the day? They're looking at their numbers in those 3 different options where we have given extra time to see what students are benefiting the most, where's the highest attendance, where are we seeing growth there.
Okay.
The principals are going to be talking about what they feel like we need beyond the ESSER funds.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And I'm happy to hear that we have training for our guest teachers and teachers are receiving that for math.
Thank you. Board members, are there any other questions? Ms. McFadden? Okay. I do have one question. I saw on several slides for elementary, middle, and high school that one of the areas that we need to grow in is not, or utilizing all the components. Have we received feedback from teachers as to why it's maybe hard for them to utilize all the components?
One of the things we talked to them about is time and helping teachers move away from the misconception that they have to work all of the problems. And so that has been part of it. Adding the 75 minutes daily in elementary has made a difference. But again, we have reiterated with schools, it's not that you do all the problems, but you need to make sure you have the concrete, the representational, the abstract. You need to work through all of the components. So yes, we do know that is the primary reason.
Okay, and then for middle school, so how long have middle schools been doing small group instruction in math?
How long have middle schools been?
Like utilizing small groups, or is it there like a pull-out group, a small, like, response?
Our retired teachers are actually doing the pull-out of the small groups right now.
Okay.
Our middle school math teachers are just what I would say are dabbling in small group instruction, because again, in our methods classes, we don't get what the elementary teachers get on how to do small groups, how to manage the rest of my classroom. So as the academic team, we have been trying to help them, but we are looking at using some ESSER funds to bring someone in and take our middle school math teachers through that process and how to plan and again, how to manage the classroom.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, because I remember middle school, it was difficult to grasp that concept of small group instruction with 30 kids in the classroom. So thank you.
Madam Secretary, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I just wanted to share something that I had a discussion with an educator about, and it was the assessments that grade, I guess within the textbook or whatever comes with the resources, that it can help them with grading. And that may be a reason why they tend to give all the problems, which takes up a lot of time. And so I was thinking, if we're using Mastery Connect, and Mastery Connect if you're using that and it does take created assessments, that perhaps some of our specialists could help by creating quick checks within Mastery Connect to give to them to use as another option that will grade their assessments and give them less problems.
You were spot on.
Okay.
And do you want to?
The assessments you were asking are already there. All I have to do is follow the tracker of our content specialists.
You were spot on. For elementary. Now, we have started working on those in middle.
Yes, we again are at the very beginning of getting middle school teachers comfortable with that. And, again, you've got to remember in middle school, you've got about a 60-minute time frame. And when you get them in, get them settled, get them started, then you've got about 45 minutes. So we're at the beginning stages of that.
And as we shared with you in September, time is the variable where we have really worked on increasing time anywhere, everywhere that we can. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we will now move on to item 10.2, the budget survey results. The agenda item in this section is regarding the budget survey results. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I would like to ask our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Nancy Williams, to come, and she's going to introduce our Executive Director for Financial Services, Mr. Stephen Strother, to do the presentation update to the board.
Good evening, Madam Secretary, members of the board, Dr. Moore. I'm very excited this evening to introduce you to Mr. Stephen Strother. As Dr. Moore said, he's our new Executive Director of Financial Services. Stephen has been with the district now for 4 weeks, and he's jumped right in, and he's doing a phenomenal job. Stephen brings with him a wealth of school district finance experience, over 22 years of experience, as a matter of fact. He served as the Director of Finance at the Department of Education. He's also served as CFO in Barnwell 45 and Saluda School District, and then in other financial roles in a couple of other school districts across the state. And like I said, he's jumped in, and he's already adding tremendous value to the business services team. But before I turn it over to Stephen, Ms. Porter, I'd like to just say one thing about a clarifying comment as it relates to the middle school principals. So the budget request for all departments in schools is due on March 1st, and so that they are not expected to pay for that out of their school funds. With that, Stephen.
All right. Thank you. And as Mr. Strother comes to the mic, just notice how much brighter and lighter Ms. Williams is. That smile has been there since she made that hire. Just want to let you know why she's smiling so much.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Nancy. I appreciate that very much. Madam Secretary, members of the board, Dr. Moore, thank you very much. I'm here tonight to present the results of the annual employee budget survey. And as you all know, we do this survey annually to begin the process, the budget process, and to start getting feedback from our stakeholders as to what the important aspects, what they feel the important aspects of the budget are. So this is the beginning process with this budget survey. It was very, very important to us. We've changed the scope of the survey a little bit this year, where in the past we have used a mechanism to where there's a ranking mechanism, and employees are kind of forced to choose maybe 5 of the important aspects of the survey, where we know all aspects are important. So this year, instead of using that process, we've gone into essentially what is called a Likert scale, which measures the level of agreement or disagreement, and therefore captures the intensity of the answer that they give based on the survey questions, which makes it, in my opinion, a much more accurate representation. Also keep in mind that this survey is one aspect of the budget process. We want to try to find other aspects of our stakeholders and other ways for our stakeholders to communicate their budget needs to us. And some of those are, we've got the budget questionnaire out to the school levels and to the administrative levels as well. Those will be coming back in beginning March 1st, and we'll review those survey questions, and we'll begin developing some other priorities based on that. We also meet with those groups. We meet with other stakeholder groups such as advisory councils. which includes the teacher advisory councils, faculty, parent, teacher advisory councils. So we want to take those into considerations also, and we also offer the board a workshop to get your input as well. So those work sessions are available, and essentially those are the ways that we began developing the budget process. And with that, if I can figure out the clicker here, I'll go into the, there we go. Okay, I did the right way first, okay. So we sent out this year, about 4,581 surveys this year. 1,410 employees participated in that survey. 3,171 did not participate. And that's about a 31% response rate. That's a good response rate when it comes to surveys. Usually when you see around 20% response rate with a survey, that's a pretty good response rate. And we added another aspect to the survey. I think it's been there all the years, but we added a free form questionnaire to where employees could actually write their feelings, write what they wanted for us to understand. So that is in here as well. But the response rate was really good this year. And to break that down into category, on the next slide, I think I have a graphic representation of that. But classroom teachers, of course, are our largest respondents. There were about 604 classroom teachers that responded, which is about 43%. Education specialists, 236 responded, which is about 17%. Instructional assistants, 12%. Other support staff, which are food service personnel, bus drivers, staff along those lines, were about 7% responding. Administration, about 9%. And the other category essentially is a category that catches all. Maybe people didn't want to say which category they were in, so we just put them in another category. So we have about 12% respondents there. And the way that looks graphically is here you see your classroom teachers responded at 43%. Ed specialists, which are school counselors, special education media, and specialists, media specialists, et cetera. And I'll point out an interesting a result from that group a little bit later on. And then you have your paraprofessionals that are in the classroom as well, other support staff, administration, other. Those are the response rates of the survey that they actually turn back in on the survey results. And then that was the first question, as a matter of fact. Give us your category that you would consider yourself to be a part of. And in this case, the second question was response by placement. So essentially, where do you work? Tell us where you work. And here we have child development, about 2%. If you work in an elementary school, you had 41% respondent. Middle school, 16%. High school, 24%. And if someone works across multiple school levels, that's about 6%. And the district office was about 12% response rate on this survey. So here we have district-wide responses, and so we ask the respondents to either strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree. And the strongly agree or the strongly disagree are the most emotionally supported responses that you can have on this type of survey. So as you can see on this first slide, and there's about 3 slides that give these results, your top respondents here are competitive salaries, benefits, and bonuses. Our employees want to see competitive salaries, benefits, bonuses. That's at 79%. That's number one. Number 2, up top, is academic intervention for lower achieving students. 62% of the respondents want to see an improvement in that area or consider it a high priority. Next slide shows some other results, but you will notice that the third in line, based on percentages, is security and safety. People have an interest, your employees have an interest in security and safety. So those are your top 3 respondents from the survey. And then I would say number 4 is the top one here, student behavior support. And again, I'll tie that back into that interesting result that I saw earlier, but you have 58% of your employees that are interested in that student behavior support. So that's the district-wide responses. So we wanted to see in the finance office how that broke down between your top 3 respondents, which are classroom teachers, teachers' aides, and your education specialists. So here are those categories, and so I'm going to do teachers first, and I'm going to go to instructional assistants second. But if you'll notice, your teachers responded that competitive salaries is top on the list, 77%. Academic intervention for lower achieving students is around 59%. And safety and security, again, is 58%. So you see those top 3 concerns, again, mirrored here when you break it down into smaller, into subgroups. So I'll jump down to the bottom real quickly and talk about instructional assistants. You see competitive salaries is number 1, and the percentage rates here are almost the same. Academic intervention for lower achieving students is at 59%, and then safety and security is a large concern for these instructional assistants and of course teachers. And I'll go back to the middle category there. It's a little bit different, and I can only show you the results here, but they're slightly different. And the one possibility, I'll throw it out there, I'm not sure why, but you do see competitive salaries as a top concern, but you also see number 2, academic intervention for lower achieving students is number 2, same as your people who are in your classrooms. But as a third response here for this group were student behavior support. And you remember on the aggregate, that was number 4. One possibility here is your teachers and your teachers' assistants are in the classroom. The education specialists are people like media specialists, people that are not involved in instruction, and that's one possibility that safety concern, maybe did not make it into the top 3 here. That's just my theory. I don't know exactly, what the survey results showed, but that's one possibility that safety and security did not make it into that demographic. So with that, we also did some open-ended responses, and the finance office read those open-ended responses. Resources needed was a question that was asked of the respondents, and I think we had about 1,039 respondents on this question. So we took them and we categorized them the best we could to show what the results were. So with the category shows classroom resources, and the best way I can describe that, the way we categorize that is classroom resources. What is that? Those are things like paper. We need more paper in our classrooms. We need more licenses, computer licenses to help us do our job. We need more things that are actually in there in the classroom that are available to us to help us do our job on a daily basis. Number 2 here on the open-ended responses was staffing needs. What does that mean? Well, that means that, we have potentially classrooms with, 30 kids in them or 25 kids. So we need more teachers to fill those vacancies that we have. Or we may have a principal without an administrative assistant. And so we have vacancies. There's quite a few vacancies in the district. So we're working on some things that will hopefully help fill those vacancies. But that, to me, that's what that means. And of course, third on the open-ended responses was compensation, interestingly enough. So that's the way the open-ended responses came across to the finance office as we read them, and we read each and every one of them a number of times. And some of them were very interesting to read, and people really put their heart out there when they're writing, I think. So those are the survey responses as we see them as they came across. So I'm sure there will be some questions on the survey responses, but one other thing I do want to do before questions are taken, we do have an updated budget timeline. And I'm not sure, now that I'm looking at that, I'm not sure that if you can really see that well, but we'll provide a bigger copy of that for you. There's not many changes to this budget timeline than the one that we presented in January. Your main changes are the board requested that we have 2 public input sessions. So we're going to do that, and both of those will happen in March at a regular board meeting. So March 12th, regular board meeting, and March 26th, regular board meeting, we'll have public input sessions regarding the budget. And then the budget discussion with the Parent Advisory Council, I think that was represented on the first timeline as April the 18th. It shows on this one April the 15th. The blank just prior to that, the budget discussion with the teacher forum, formerly the Faculty Advisory Council. We haven't really tied down a date yet. We're still working on a date, but we think that's going to be late March, early April. But we will have that discussion with that group of people. And then the tentative date to publish the public hearing, if you'll notice, that's between the first and the second reading of the budget. That's required 10 days prior to the second reading of the budget. And those are the changes from the initial budget timeline that was presented in January to you. So with that, that's my presentation, and of course, I will welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Williams and Mr. Strother, board members. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam Secretary?
Yes, Ms. Porter.
Are the open-ended questions or needs shared with the appropriate departments as far as the resources? Like, that seems to me like it would be an easy fix or request.
Right, so the open-ended questions came from the participants in the survey. They came to finance. We reviewed those, and we don't know who responded in that way because they're anonymous. But like I said, we did categorize them, and what we will do with those open-ended questions is take those results back to our budget meetings and consider those results as priorities and consider them in our budget talks from this point forward. Did that answer your question? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. And then for the 2 dates that we have for the public input session, so I just want to make sure I have a good understanding of it, that March 12th and March 26th is where we can invite community members to come in and share their input on our district's budget. That's right? Okay.
Right.
All right. That's all that I have for you. Thank you.
Let me just add something to that. The reason why we don't have as many people come in because of the time, and people are still at work. However, we tried in the past to have it on a different night, but because it's only 30 minutes, we'll have to have staff and board members to come in. So that's why we changed the date to a board meeting. But I do want to say to the public that if you cannot make it, your voice matters, and we do want to hear from you. Send us an email. Contact us, because we do want to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
We will now move on to item 10.3. This agenda item in this section is regarding the classification study report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I would like to ask Dr. Franklin Foster, our Senior Chief of Human Resources Officer, to present the update to the board.
Good evening, board members. Ms. Washington, good evening, and good evening, Dr. Moore. It is indeed a pleasure to be here tonight to share with you a lot of the work that has been happening behind the scenes with our classification and compensation study. The work started back in October of 2021, and please note that during that time, in my role, in my capacity, I was not responsible for leading this charge. And of course, when Dr. Moore came on, she advised us that she wanted this to be one of our top priorities, is to work on getting this finalized. And so Ms. Williams and I have developed a team, and we've been working very closely with our consultants from Management Advisory Group. And tonight we have Dr. Russell Campbell here, who is the vice president of the company, here to share with you an overview of the work that we've been doing for the last 6 months. And they have been very supportive of our work. We've had a lot of conversations with them, and we're excited about the things that we're doing. We're not finalized the classification and compensation study, but we're about 75% closer, so we definitely are excited about trying to get that work finished and hopefully get it approved for the budget so that we can address some of the challenges that you've heard tonight related to staffing as well as compensation. So we're excited about that. So I'm going to invite Dr. Campbell to come up, and he'll lead you through the presentation, and then we'll be here for questions.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Moore. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you some of the findings and recommendations from the compensation classification study for the classified staff that we've been working on with the school district. I do want to go back for a second to address a comment by Mr. Foster. He is correct. We did start the study in October of 2021 with the explicit instruction that the initial report needed to be done by March of 2022. We delivered the study on March 1st of 2022, and then it fell off a cliff. We tried to engage to find out or get some feedback from the initial report, but we could not get anyone to respond or to meet with us, and so it was paused for almost a year. Until the past 6 months with the new leadership team in place, we were re-engaged to move forward with completing the study. Of course, because so much time had elapsed, we had to go back and re-examine the data, update the data, re-examine trends and conditions in the labor market so that what we were presenting would be relevant with respect to where the market is today. So I say all that to say that we are happy that we've made it to this point in the process. We look forward to finishing the study over the next several weeks. A little bit about my background in the firm. I've been in the consulting business for about 26 years. I've done almost 300 of these type studies as an individual. I am the one person in the company who does primarily the larger school districts. I've done Houston Independent School District. I've done Philadelphia Public Schools. I worked for Atlanta Public Schools, Chesapeake Public Schools, and Broward County, Florida Public Schools. Here in South Carolina, we have done a number of school districts, Richland School District 1, Horry County, Dorchester 2, Lancaster, Kershaw County, and Spartanburg 7. And we are currently working with Aiken County Public Schools as we speak to develop a similar project for that district. Our company has been in business for about 25 years. We've worked in virtually every state except for 2. That would be Hawaii and Alaska. Our client base is all public sector entities, school districts, municipal and county governments, as well as public safety enterprises. And as a company, we've done over 500 studies collectively among the team members. Historical overview. And let me start by sharing a little anecdotal story. I was exiting from the military in the early 2000s, and my family and I were trying to decide where we wanted to live. And we ultimately decided that we wanted to stay in Columbia. So we engaged friends and relatives and real estate agents about what would be an appropriate school district for our 2 daughters that were both school age. Almost to a T. Everyone said, you need to be in Richland School District. Academics are good, quality of work life there is really good. That's where you need to be. So we purchased a home in the Richland 2 zone. And thanks to the foundation that the district provided my two daughters, one went on to Clemson and graduated, and the other went on to Francis Mary and graduated. So I'm grateful to the district for that. But over the past 2 decades, some of the luster has fallen from the district. Compensation has fallen behind some of your peer groups, not only here regionally, but around the state. With respect to this being an employer of choice where people want to come work here, it's not what it used to be. And so I want to say to you as board members and superintendent and staff, you have a unique opportunity to forge your legacy on what the district's going to look like over the next 5-10 years. And I hope that you restore the luster that I came in contact with when I first came in contact with Richland District 2. I know we do this around the country and around the state, and everybody talks about Greenville County schools, and well, not everybody has a BMW in their backyard to help with the tax base, so we need to put that out there. But back then, in the early 2000s, it was Richland 2 that people were looking up at. And we can get back there. The district can get back there. And so I hope that, and I think it's a must, that the district reposition itself as one of the premier districts in the state of South Carolina. And I think you have the leadership and the board commitment to do just that. We were told that the last time a comprehensive study like this was done was probably 10 years ago. I would say it's closer to 20. There may have been some internal adjustments to the pay schedules, but based on what we found, it's been closer to 20 years. Best practices says you want to do this type of study every 5 years. And in the interim, your Human Resources Department should be conducting quarterly surveys of different occupational groups to see how the market is trending for different positions that comprise the workforce here in the district. Some of the current practices and policies that are in place have created internal pay equity, where we found that some individuals, based on their current occupational group, were paid less than others who had similar duties and responsibilities, whose job required similar certifications, education, or licensure. For example, one policy that stood out, if a current employee leaves the district and is gone for more than 6 months, if they worked here 10 years, they don't get any credit for that if they come back. Now, not only is that institutional knowledge, cultural knowledge that has left but is willing to return, but to not acknowledge their previous work, in my mind, that's almost a slap in the face for what they contributed while they were here. Other policies that are concerning, there is no consistent process for placement of classified staff on the appropriate salary scales. I would go on to say that there has been undue influence on compensation outside of what may have been recommended by the Human Resources Department for whatever reason. And as a result of that, we have internal inequity, and we certainly have external inequity when it comes to how you compare with other districts. And so, for example, our instructional assistants receive no experience credit, and they're vital in terms of supporting the classroom and the teacher function, regardless of how long they work. Other classified staff receive 2-for-1 credit. If you have 10 years of experience, you'll get 5 years of credit. I would say the majority of the districts, 2/3 that we work with nationally, are 1-for-1. And so it is the policies that have contributed to some of the angst and poor morale when it comes to compensation and classification within the district. I think the Finance Department shared that roughly 79% of the survey participants raised some concern about levels of pay within the district. We examined the position descriptions within the district. We found that many of them have not been updated in probably 2 decades. No doubt that some staff are performing duties and responsibilities that are not currently documented on their existing position description. They are concerned about some of the designations under the Fair Labor Standards Act with respect to exempt and non-exempt status for payment of overtime. Some of the job descriptions don't comply with ADA standards. We have certainly offered to rewrite all the district descriptions as well as to make sure they're ADA compliant and re-examine the FLSA designations. Study goals and objectives. We came in the door looking to perform a classification and compensation study for all classified positions within the district. We wanted to compare you with relative labor markets within the state. I'm going to share with you the other districts that we examine or collected data from as a part of this process. We want to ensure that positions performing similar work with essentially the same level of complexity and responsibility and knowledge were paid or classified on the same level. We wanted to make sure from top to bottom that the salary schedules were competitive with surrounding districts. And we wanted to provide some best practices with respect to areas that are needed to support the new compensation system. For example, there needs to be consistent policies with how do you place new hires based on their experience when it exceeds the minimum in terms of years of service or education. There needs to be policies that govern how you handle someone's pay when they get promoted. There's a difference when it comes to being promoted up 1 grade versus being promoted up 5 grades. The amount of incentive should be different. Same with reclassification requests and interim assignments. And so we provided best practices policies for salary guidance and administration as a part of the study. The scope of the study included 1,506 positions or 209 job titles within the district. Our methodology was to collect job data from the district by way of the existing descriptions, organizational charts, information from human resources with respect to historical data on recruitment and retention, and meetings with administration. We also identified jobs where the district consistently has had issues with recruitment and retention. We did some individual interviews with some selected staff and top management. And we gathered data from 14 other districts around the state. We are hoping that the district will allow us to revise or create new job descriptions. And of course, we developed a transition plan from a cost standpoint of what it will take to implement the new study that we developed for the district. As you see on the screen now, you'll see the 14 other districts that we collected data from, starting with Greenville County here in South Carolina, Charleston, Horry County, Berkeley County, Richland 1, Lexington 1, and then general government, because there are similar positions that exist within general government as they do in most school districts. We collected data from the City of Columbia, Richland County, Durham County Public Schools, North Carolina, Cabarrus County Public Schools, North Carolina, Henry County Schools in Georgia, Stafford County Public Schools in Virginia, Norfolk City Public Schools in Virginia, and Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools in Tennessee. Now, this list was mutually agreed upon between the leadership and management advisory group. Several factors went into selecting those groups that you see before you. Obviously, we wanted to look regionally. Most people are willing to commute up to an hour and a half if the financial situation indicates that it's a good move for them. And then beyond that, we reached out to some of the larger districts in the state, like Greenville and Charleston and Horry. And then we looked at other districts outside South Carolina based on a combination of factors: student enrollment, size of workforce, reputation as being an employer choice with respect to compensation and benefits, in areas where there's growth, economically they're vibrant. So there are a number of factors that went into the consideration to select those peer entities. Based on the plan that we've developed, which included 209 titles, it is a step plan. The number of steps range from 20 to 27, up to 20 or 27, depending on the particular occupational group. One of the things that we'd like to see the district get away from is this one-size-fits-all when it comes to determining increases of pay for different occupations. Occupations in the labor market do not all move in sync. Okay? Labor is driven by supply and demand, the same principles as gasoline and orange juice. What your skill set is, it becomes more valuable if there are less people that hold that skill set and credentials in the labor pool. So you've really got to dig deep and fine-tune your approach to how you handle compensation. Otherwise, you're going to continue to be a training ground for employees that move on to surrounding districts locally, and then districts around the state, and some even outside the state. There are 36 grade levels in the compensation plan that we came up with, starting from grade 101 up to 136. And the spread from step 1 to the top step ranges from 40 to 50%, which is common here in South Carolina with respect to salary schedules. One of the things that I do want to press upon you is that pay alone does not decide whether someone comes to work or stay with an employer. But having spent 15 years conducting work climate assessments based on Maslow's theory of hierarchical needs, we were able to show, based on a level of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, that based on that 15 years of research, the top 3 reasons someone would come to work for an entity or stay employed with an entity, pay would always rank in the top 3, but it would not always be number 1. Sometimes advancement opportunity would be number 1. Sometimes the culture of the organization would be number 1. Benefits could be number 1, the retirement package, but pay will always be in the top 3. So it's going to be a major consideration as it relates to whether or not you're able to recruit new hires and maintain the people you've already invested in training and developing. So with respect to what is it going to cost to transition to the salary schedules that we've developed, it includes 1,506 individuals spread across 209 different job titles or classifications. You'll notice I said 1,506 in terms of individuals. We found that 861 of the 1,506 were below our step 1s. They were below the entry level. And so to get those folks up to at least step 1 is $3.4 million. And then to round everyone up to place them on the appropriate step adds another $341,769 to the budget. And so our total annualized, which is a reoccurring cost, is $3.7 million. Now, this does not include fringe benefits. These are raw salary dollars to employees. This will put you in line with the current market. Ideally, if you want to strive to be an employer of choice, you need to be 10 to 15% above the market average, as well as have a very robust benefits package. And so the system is flexible so that going forward, each year, the district will adjust the schedules based on economic conditions, whether it be the consumer price index or the employment cost index, which is a better measure, which takes into account what the employers are seeing in terms of increases with respect to both compensation and benefits. So let's say for the next budget year, it may be 3.5%. Maybe the district wants and can afford to do maybe 4.5. That is how you gain ground and position yourself as an employer of choice going forward. And then, of course, every 5 years, you've got to reassess where you are. But on an interim basis, between the 5-year periods, you need to do a better job of forecasting and looking at the market and see how things are trending as it relates to labor. Recommendations on compensation policies, as I said earlier, we've provided guidance on reclassifications, promotions, lateral transfers, demotions, temporary assignments, as well as starting rates of pay for new hires, and how to handle individuals who have maxed out, whose current compensation is above the top step of the existing salary schedules that we've come back with. And of course, these all reflect best practices that we've either implemented or observed in other districts around the country. Financial and organizational impact, what we put together has been a fair, equitable process. There was no undue bias by the new administration in terms of what we had to come back with. We did not ask at the beginning what would be set aside initially with respect to anticipation of what the study may cost. We tend to not do that because we don't want anyone to think that we build a study where the numbers fit nicely into some pre-budgeted amount. This was a very transparent process, and the $3.7 million increases current payroll for the classified folks by 5.87%. Additional best practices and recommendations. Define a strategy reflecting how the district wants to be positioned in the marketplace. Do you just want to be in the middle of the pack, or do you want to be a pack leader? This is where the board's guidance and direction is critical with respect to how the district moves forward. We have recommended that the district develop a compensation philosophy that kind of ties the board to a direction over the long haul, which will serve as board members come and go, administration comes and go, but it will bring some security and some consistency to compensation within the district. You need to align total rewards, which are compensation and benefits, with the developed strategy previously mentioned. You need to measure both staff and senior leadership expectations HR needs to do more cost-benefit analysis, including return on investment, when you do make compensation adjustments. You need to perform regular pay audits to detect and rectify pay disparities among the different occupational groups to ensure that there's fairness and equity. There are some employees who don't think that compensation has been handled fairly. They think there's a bias to those that know certain people or in certain positions, and whether real or not, it's a perception, and that needs to be addressed. You need to focus on the whole person, the well-being. In today's labor market, which is a tight labor market, we've got baby boomers retiring and exiting the marketplace. In K-12, we've got individuals who have decided to move on, whether they have reached retirement or not. They changed careers. You're going to have to do a better job of recruiting millennials. They're not too concerned about retirement and health care. They think it'll be young, strong forever. I thought that once, and every night as I rub myself down with Bengay, I realize that's not the case. So, but you've got to develop recruiting strategies that speak to different components in the labor market, different participants in the labor market. You got to consistently solicit feedback from employees on a regular basis. The surveys that I saw that you discussed tonight, those are great. But if you don't provide interim information as to how you're progressing with the feedback that you've given, you might as well have not engaged in the survey process at all. That just tends to make people more suspect of whether or not their voice is being heard. Provide competitive comp and benefits by conducting annual benchmarking surveys. In K-12, everything is benchmarked. Compensation classification benefits should be too. By looking at a mix of peers, whether it's the list that was used for this study or another list, and then break down different occupational groups on a quarterly basis to see what's happening with the pay for those positions. And then you want to do every comprehensive study of 5 or 6 years. Staff needs to be educated on the basics of compensation by providing training to all staff to help them understand and maximize their benefits. There's some really good benefits that are associated with employment with the district. I don't think some employees understand the magnitude by which they're receiving certain benefits. I don't think some employees understand that your paycheck may lead you to a $40,000 a year salary, but you're actually costing the district $55,000 because they're paying certain benefits on your behalf. It's always a good idea, at least once a year, to provide staff with such a total compensation worksheet to where they can see what they're actually being paid in totality based on compensation and benefits. I think one of the reasons there's such confusion and poor morale as it relates to compensation, a lot of folks just don't understand how people advance through the salary scale. And so those type of things need to be addressed. The Human Resources Department, and this is no slight to current staff at all, you can classify a Human Resources Department in one or two fashions. Either it's a transactional department that signs up new employees, processes new employee paperwork, personal action forms, signs people up for benefits, and handle grievances, employee relations. Or it's what we would call a strategic partner, for lack of a better word, has a seat at the table and has input into major decisions that impact the workforce. In most organizations, anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of the operating budget is tied to human resources in some shape or fashion based on salary and benefits, but it's often, HR is not often looked at as a major player when it comes to the leadership team. That's got to change, and HR has to transition to become a more strategic partner. I was pleased to hear from Mr. Foster that the HR department has engaged a consultant to help with some of those issues, but the department needs to assist finance and the board in decision-making by doing a better job of workforce planning. You need to be able to understand what your workforce may look like over the next 5 years, 10 years, in terms of growth, size, by occupational groups. And that requires diagnostic data and research, and that needs to be a component of how HR is to function. I talked about the philosophy, which needs to have major input from the board, which sets the tone how the district is going to operate moving forward. And once that document is put into place, it's a great idea to post that on the district website under the HR function, so prospective applicants as well as current employees can see what the philosophy is on how the district values employees and tries to be a good steward of taxpayer money at the same time. Ultimately, you want to strive to be an employee of choice, and you must, you should, and you can do that and get there. And so these are some of the tidbits of information from the study that we prepared. As Mr. Foster said, we're still probably 20-25% away from finishing the study, but we will continue to work with the district moving forward. If there are any questions, I happily entertain those at this point in time.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Dr. Scott?
I don't have a question, Dr. Campbell.
Yes, ma'am.
But I want to say thank you for your transparency. Thank you for coming tonight, sharing this, because this has been something that we should have addressed a long time ago, and it's the elephant in the room that many people shy away from. So thank you for your boldness to come in here and to be completely honest with not only the board, but with the listeners, with the faculty and staff. So I just want to say thank you. Your Bengay is working. Thank you. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm joking. But thank you. No, I really appreciate that. Just, look, I'm about to fall asleep. I have to make people laugh.
Ms. Agostini?
Thank you. And I, too, want to thank you, Dr. Campbell. I was on the board in October of 2021, and at some point in time, as a board member, we were informed of a survey taking place. And we have waited, and finally we received a new superintendent who informed us that somehow it had been dropped, and she picked it up. So thank you to Dr. Moore, Dr. Foster for picking it up and bringing it back to light, because we know that we have human resources issues.
When I met with Dr. Moore, I'm a retired military, and she didn't have to say it. I said, "You're retired military, aren't you?" Because when she said, "This needs to be done," and looks over the top of those glasses, you know what time it is. So.
I do have one question. You've talked about policy change. Have you identified board policy and talked with administration regarding exact change? Are we talking policy, board policy, or are we talking practices?
We're talking practices, administratively speaking, on how to manage compensation and benefits within the district. From the board side, the board needs to take the lead in conjunction with working with leadership and HR to develop a compensation philosophy that's overreaching, big picture as to where do you want to position yourself in the labor market? You want to be a leader, or you just want to stay in line with the market? Do you want to look at incentive pays, for example? A lot of employees have raised that issue. There are many districts have certain things in place. There's some creative ways to do that. Some districts that I work with, they're not into perhaps merit or performance pay, but they do provide longevity incentives, bonuses for the employees based on the anniversary date, based on hitting certain milestones, things of that nature, sick leave buyback, PTO time buyback. Those things, when you take them collectively as a whole, it tends to make a pretty robust package for the organization.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Campbell. As Dr. Scott did say, that was been an elephant in the room consistently, and so I want to say thank you so much for this presentation. We have requested it several times, and I think that we were just waiting for the right company to come back and pick it back up to give us all this information. One thing you didn't do is give us a whole bunch of numbers, which is good, because what needed to be said was the issues and concerns with what needs to be done. So I appreciate your honesty in that, like she said. And now we can get to the drawing board and figure out what is going to be great for our employees, because just like you said, the science and math right now, that is a highlight. So for those teachers who are under the scope, as we said earlier, we need to pay according to the work that is being done. And I appreciate that, so that when adjustments are made, that people understand why they're being made that way. I have been waiting for this for so long, and I'm so excited for it to be here. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, this is a phased approach that we are taking, board, because obviously we cannot do it all at one time, but we know that our classified staff, as we've all heard loud and clear, have not been serviced appropriately, as Dr. Campbell has explained to us. So the cost that you see there is the 3.7. That is just for classified, and now we are transitioning to looking at our teachers, and we will continue this process through as long as it takes to get the ship righted.
And we have communicated with MAG about our teacher salary scale, and they have given us some advice. One of the things that they recommended is that, the 45 steps is not really practical. That, when we're looking at our 45 steps and you're looking at a district that has 30 steps is usually what you see, 30 steps, we're still at the same amount. So if the max is $60,000, then we're still at that same max. So meaning what our steps have been smaller for teachers. So we're getting ready to engage with finance on the teacher salary scale and utilizing the one that they provided us as a model so that we can outline what our teacher salary scale is going to be. But that is a project that we're doing in-house to address so that we can be as competitive as possible based on the information that's coming out of the state right now.
Clarifying question?
Yes.
So just to be clear, are we using the consultants to do the certified, or is that, did I hear you say you're doing that in-house?
No, so when I say that, remember when we're looking at the certified staff, a lot of that is devised by what's at the state, what's coming out of the State House. So right now, if you listened to or got feedback, you're talking about what the Ways and Means Committee has already approved. So we're looking to see what they're coming up and what they're approving, and then so we can re-engage them to help us finalize that salary schedule for teachers. But we know that the teacher salary scale, just one thing that we know is one thing that we need to address is the 45 steps. We know that that is not best practices for what you see on the districts that our comparable districts, our market districts, that we are seeing them going to 45 steps. So once we get more information from the State Department of the state about salaries and what they're proposing, then we'll re-engage them to help us finalize the teacher salary scale.
Okay, and do we have an expectation of when we would like to have that survey completed?
Ms. Williams, when do you think you'll have more information from the state? This is a team. We're a team.
And that's fine. She might not have that information until the end of session.
But she knows more.
May. So then I'm trying to think. So then how long would that take? Is it 3 months, or it's, shoot, you were hired in 2021 and here you are 3 years later. So.
No, I think the one thing that we're doing is that we know that the goal of the board is that they want us to be competitive. And that goes back to, are we going to be able to be in front of it, or are we going to try to meet where we're at? And a lot of that's going to be contingent upon what the state outlines as the starting salary for teachers, because that's what she keeps telling me, calm down, Foster, we're going to get there, but I'll let her talk.
Definitely, because right now it's a moving target. So a few months back, we had a great idea to make us competitive. Well, when House Ways and Means came out with a starting salary of $47,000, it's going to take a lot more dollars in order to make us competitive to lead the market, or even match the market. So MAG will definitely engage with us within that process, but a lot of the teacher salary stuff is really going to come down to budget and how much we can afford.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Porter, did you have anything? Okay. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to now move on to item 10.4, which is this section is regarding the second annual financial report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'd like to have Ms. Nancy Williams, our Senior Chief Financial Officer, come back to the podium and address the board with the second quarter financial report.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Madam Secretary, members of the board, I stand before you to briefly go over the second quarter financial report of 2024. So that's for the period ending December 31st, 2023. So I draw your attention to the second column, the last set of numbers. As of December 31st, we received $142,865,102, or 39.72% of our anticipated. We come down just a little bit more of our anticipated general fund revenue. This collection rate is consistent with second quarter results over the last 3 years. If we go to the next page and look at our expenditures, at the end of December, of course, we were 50% of the way through the fiscal year. And again, I draw your attention to the second column. At that point in time, we had expended over $152 million and an additional $15.7 million in encumbrances, which represents 46.66% of our budget. And this is fairly in line with where we have, again, been over the last 3 years at the end of the second quarter. Okay, the next page represents our revenue and expenditures related to our EIA funding. Again, if we draw your attention to the second column, you'll see that at the end of December, we had received $19.3 million in revenue. We had expended $17.6 million at that time. And then when you factor in what our total budget that we received from the specific items from the state, we still have a balance that we're due of $19.1 million. If you would, I would draw your attention to Fund 332 and 335. They're in the middle of the page. Those are the national board certified lines and the reading coach lines. I just kind of wanted to clarify that, you know, those are salary related lines. We pay those out at the beginning of the year, but there was a little bit of delay in when we received the revenue from the state, when they start actually dispensing or allocating or distributing rather the pots of EIA funding. Okay, on page 4, our special revenue funds. So on this page, this primarily consists of our federal grants. And so all of them essentially that flow through the South Carolina Department of Education or the U.S. Department of Education directly are on a reimbursement basis. So that's why you will notice that the expended column to date, which is the third column, is higher than the revenue received column 2. It's just because of how that reimbursement basis works. But in the third quarter or at February 15th, we went ahead and submitted the claims by the date that's provided to us so that we could receive the additional revenue for those expenditures. Okay. Page 5 of the report represents information or shows information on your specific budget as a school board. And so I just want to draw your attention to, again, the second column. So of your $450,000 budget, $191,278 was expended as of December. When you factor in encumbrances of $138,863, there was $120,397 remaining. If you look at the footnote 2, the negative balance that you see there, that's because at that time we were still working with the board's assistant to close out some needed POs. But that will be worked out when you see the third quarter report. Okay, and then the final page of the report relates to our 2018 referendum projects. Of the $468 million, at the end of December, we had expended $387 million, with $81 million that's left to cover encumbrances and project completion. Madam Secretary, I'm available if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Board members, are there any questions?
Madam Secretary, before Ms. Williams sits down, Ms. Williams, could you just share with the board the timeline that we've received from the county in reference to our budget, submitting it to them?
We were informed that the information will come out in late April, and that's at the time we will also receive the budget forms, and then we'll have, we will receive that in April with a due date of either late April or early May.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
All right, we will now move on to item 10.5. This agenda section is regarding board member conference update. Any board members want to share any news or information from recent conferences or workshops that you attended? We'll start on this side, Dr. Scott or Ms. Agostini.
No, I did not attend that conference. My conference is scheduled for next month, but share briefly so we can continue the work of the district.
Ms. Agostini?
I'll just address, I went to the conference put on by the South Carolina School Boards Association, I think a week or so ago, with several of my colleagues. I do appreciate the opportunity to attend because of the professional development and the workshops that are offered. One of the workshops that I really enjoyed or was glad to attend was the board chair workshop, and mainly because there were 4 members from our school board there. And it was nice to hear from experts or from the training. There have been a lot of questions about what the board chair can and cannot do, so it was great to have 4 people or 4 colleagues there so that we could all be on the same page. One of the most interesting parts was the final group work session where they asked different boards, and there are approximately 80 school board members in there, to work together and collaborate and address current issues facing the board. And 3 that I thought were interesting was how to connect better with the community, and 2 that were a little bit more applicable to us that other school boards face as well. And they were Facebook posts by colleagues on the school board and how to address those, and also with school boards directing administration to spend tremendous amounts of time addressing or researching 1 or 2 constituents' concerns. So it was interesting to hear the solutions that different colleagues from the state of South Carolina had to share about those issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Ms. Porter?
Yes, I too attended the South Carolina School Boards Association conference, and I particularly enjoyed Friday's speaker, Chuck Underwood, who spoke about our generational board strategies, and listening to Mr. Campbell, or Dr. Campbell, I'm not sure which one, but listening to him, it just reconfirmed that we need to be mindful of these different generations and where they're moving and shifting, and what things attract these generations to stay as we start thinking about recruitment and retention. And I had lots of notes, and that's just an area I would like to dig a little deeper in, also, and have further conversations with my colleagues. Another session that I went to was about using school facilities as community rentals and school-sponsored events. It was just intriguing to see another school board that found ways to make money basically off of allowing their spaces to be used for the community. It worked for them. I know it wouldn't work for everyone, but I did take some notes on how it worked for another school district and how it could be beneficial and help the community. And then one of my favorites was where we closed with leadership team conflict management. And I took away lots of notes of ways we can incorporate that in our budget, in our board workshops and retreats. And so I took some little special notes on that, on how we could use it in the future. So thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
Yes, so as you all know, I went to Washington, and their topics were much like the ones that I attended in COSBA. However, there were some other topics like AI and workforce development, and how we're going to get our children to the point where they're understanding that AI is where we're heading to, and getting back into the trade schools, such as electricians, such as plumbers, because those are going to be the jobs that our students are going to need in the future. So how to incorporate that into our school systems and make sure that the information, the curriculum that we're putting out and producing is relevant for the students that we're going to be producing, that's going to be in the workforce in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm also in April going to have the opportunity to go to New York for an AI conference where they're going to be discussing the aptitude of a person's brain and how that's going to be utilized and change the way that the students are thinking and how they need to address situations and how they're going to have to actually work in an AI community that we're moving forward to. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to go and to hear where the future is heading, and who better to learn it from than those who are already there, so that we know where we're going and how to get there and what we need to do for our children to get them there. So that was really interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. And again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to expand the knowledge that we can gain for what we need to do for our students back here. Thank you.
Chairman Trapp, do you have anything that you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Washington. I would like to add, probably the thing that I thought was most beneficial for me was the presentation given by Dr. Anderson of the Chesterfield County School District. I was very, very impressed with the data he offered on how they have reduced fights and did some other things that has really benefited their district, particularly in their discipline and some of the things they do with the students that have made some very poor choices. I really hope that we can take some of the stuff that they incorporated there in their school district and take it and apply it in ours here. And that's the only thing I would like to add. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Trapp. And for me, the sessions that I attended focused more on student discipline and also how to build trust among the leadership team. One of the sessions, I think it was a general session, they talked about, it was titled Gale Force Winds, and it talked about where we are, where we've come from COVID in terms of what our student population is going to look like, what the world is going to look like, and how you can utilize that data to begin to drive conversations and changes within your district around hiring practices, around teaching practices, and around just, how are you going to incorporate those things to upbuild your community, because we are purpose-driven and future-ready. And then the last session just really inspired me, and I told Ms. Porter, we have to make sure we get this gentleman in our district, because he really fired me up. He talked about the teacher village, and it's not just a place, but it really is helping students to embrace their culture, their background, who they are, and really pushing them into creating their path and charting their path and telling their story. And so it was this probably was the best conference that I attended with the School Board Association. All right. We will now move on to item 11.1, which will be new business action required. The agenda item in this section is regarding the employee referral incentive pilot. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm going to ask Dr. Franklin Foster, our Senior Chief Human Resource Officer, to present this to the board.
I'm back. Secretary Washington, Dr. Moore, thank you again for letting Human Resources share another opportunity for us to try to continue to work to address our retention and recruitment efforts. So we do have a proposal that we would like to present to you tonight, and we started thinking about this proposal for two reasons. One, we have a similar proposal referral program in place with our transportation department. Our bus drivers or any district employee, if they refer a bus driver to transportation and they work a minimum of 45 days, then they will receive a $500 referral bonus. And so we had 32 of those referral bonuses to be paid out. So that's 32 new bus drivers that we generated because of this initiative. And so one of the things that we're hoping for now is to try to utilize that same philosophy in trying to recruit and retain some of our teachers. Our HR assessment is going well, and one of the things that the consultant shared in my previous executive session with him, as well as some of our data from our HR assessment survey that we provided. We have a strong base of teachers that want to stay in the district, and we feel like we need to capitalize on those individuals who may be able to help us retain some of our teachers. Tony, can you turn that to the next slide? So what we're proposing tonight is to have a referral incentive for any of employees who refer a certified teacher to the district. And the current referral incentive is $250. And I know there was a request to say if there's enough, and we can talk a little bit more about some financials at the end, but the current proposal is $250 for a certified teacher. And that could be any, like I said, any district employees. And because it would be a pilot, we're looking at utilizing funds that have already been allocated for the teacher signing bonus. So we would want to run this incentive pilot from March 1st through June 30th. So if an employee recommends a certified teacher during this time, and that teacher signs their employment agreement with the district, it wouldn't be starting work because, of course, this would be using funds that are appropriated for this year. So if the employee signs their agreement, their contract, then that employee would be eligible for the $250 incentive. And we have on our application where an applicant can recommend, I was referred by Franklin Foster. Remember that name, Franklin Foster. The incentives will be paid after the contract date. So if somebody signs now, they would not be able to be paid the incentive until after the May 10th teacher signing contract deadline. And that is because up until that time, a teacher can request to be released from their contract without any type of sanctions to them. So it's not a binding contract until after 11/59 on May 10th. What we're proposing is utilizing the funds that are already set aside in the recurring teacher signing bonuses. And if you recall, we have we will utilize this year, currently based on our current staffing, $1,630,000 of that money, and we've budgeted $2 million for that project. So that leaves us with about $370,000 that we have. And one of the things that we asked when we were meeting with Ms. Williams is that if we used the incentive and we had it at $250 and it would be grossed up, so if we used it and we were able to recruit 100 people, I'm very ambitious because we're carrying about 120 vacancies right now for the upcoming school year, then that would be $42,084. And I know the request was, is this enough? And when we went back and talked about and looked at the amount that we're paying bus drivers, we did a $500 incentive grossed up for 100 people would be $84,168. And so what we're asking is the board's consideration for us to implement this pilot. And if it's successful, and if we can generate some strong candidates referrals from this incentive, then we would put this in, we would request this incentive to be this incentive to be added to our FY25 budget.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
Madam Secretary.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
when I'm looking at the incentive will be paid after the May 10th contract, I'm just thinking, you know, we know that after they sign that contract, they can't leave unless we decide to release them or to go turn their name into the State Department. Have you guys considered maybe paying the incentive after the first 45 days and allowing them to get there? Or is this something you're trying to utilize the money that's within this budget right now? Because I don't want us to rush the process just because we have money there and then we lose teachers, because, you know, we've had this conversation about giving money and then teachers may not come back. So I'm a little nervous. I want to do this because, as you said, remember that name? I remember a time before when we had incentives and I gained a little change back in the day. So I get it, but I'm just a little nervous about giving away more money. So is that something you guys can consider, or should we just push forward with this May 10th to see as many teachers we can get?
So I would have to refer that question to Ms. Williams, because of course, you know, we're utilizing funds that are budgeted for this year, and typically you can't use those funds that are budgeted for this year outside of, you know, the June 30th deadline. Am I correct, Ms. Williams?
But like I said, I just don't want to just give it away, because there are so many other things and other resources and summer school and summer food pantry and all those other things that we can do with the money. So.
And we could, you know, I think when if this would be the pilot to try to at least try to help us utilize staff that are going to be remaining with us to try to recruit staff into the district. And then, you know, if this pilot is successful and we are able to, you know, get a minimum of, you know, if we get 20, I'm a success. I think that's a good success too, if we get 20. But if we get any benefit from this, I think one of the things that we can do is we can add the caveat next time, very similar to what the bus, that they have to be employed for at least, you know, after that 45th day, we could do that. But right now, as I understand it, with the current funds that we will be utilizing, we won't be able to utilize those funds outside of June 30th. So that's why there would be no work service attached to the pilot.
Just one other question. So we have enough funds that if they come back with 300 or 500 new teachers, that we will be able to fund that?
I'll refer that to Ms. Williams again.
Because what we don't want is a teacher coming and upset because we say, I'm sorry, we've depleted the funds.
That's as of today. And I hope that's as of today, and I hope, I mean, and we have some that are still waiting to be approved. So yes, right now we have 120 per se. I told her to come up here with me in the first place. I asked her to come up here with me in the first place, I guess.
There is some flexibility to account for the fact that there may be more than 100 teachers. There is some wiggle room in that number.
Madam Secretary, I would like to support this, but what I would like to ask the board is if we can just postpone the vote. This information has just been presented to us. I did send in the questions asking how much money has been spent, how much, you know, looking at this, I've asked some colleagues who are teachers, is $250 really enough to incentivize a teacher? Can we actually give more? So it would be my request for us just to postpone this so I can re-listen to the information, write the numbers that you've given to me on the paper, and have some more thoughtful conversations one-on-one with some of my colleagues. I too am concerned about the employee signing on saying, yeah, I'll come to work, and then them not showing up August 7th. So I would like to ask, I'll actually make a motion and move to postpone this vote until March the 12th.
Ms. Porter?
So with the...
You need a second before you discuss. I made a motion.
Oh.
Sorry.
I didn't know you were really
I
making
didn't know you were
a
really
motion.
making the motion. I thought you were waiting. I'm actually moving because it is action requested. So I'm going to move to postpone the vote until March 12th, 2024. And if you second it, and just forgive me, we've got some new people, so I just want to make sure that they understand. If you second it, it doesn't mean that you agree with my motion. It just means that you want to open the discussion to the motion. So you can vote no on the motion that I just made if you want to continue on and make a motion, but a second just simply means for the board that you're opening up my motion for discussion.
But then you won't be able to discuss it.
And if there's no second, then it fails for lack of a second, which is fine too.
Can you repeat your motion, please?
I move to postpone the vote for the referral incentive until the March 12th, 2024 board meeting.
A motion has been made by Mrs. Agostini. Is there a second? All right, there is no second, so motion fails. May I please have a motion, may I please have a motion on the employee referral incentive pilot goal?
Madam Secretary,
Yes, Ms. Porter.
I move that we approve the employee referral incentive pilot goal.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion?
Madam Secretary. Thanks. And I'm going to be abstaining from this because I would like to take more time to process the information and the numbers that were given. And that's simply why I'm abstaining. I want to support an incentive bonus for our teachers, our employees, but I don't have enough information at this time to make an intellectual or educated vote. Thank you.
Mrs. Porter?
Yes. So back to the discussion portion, I was wondering, for the employees, will they be able to recruit more than one teacher and have more than one installment of the 250? And that kind of answers Ms. Agostini's question about is 250 enough? If our goal is for them to recruit more, it could be 1,000, but depending on how many you recruit.
That's correct. And that's correct. And as I shared with you, that was our proposal of 250 when we, Mrs. Agostini sent that information today and that question. And so we did pull out the numbers for $500 grossed up would be $84,168 compared to $250 for 100 teachers is $42,084. So that was the proposal amount could fluctuate based on the board's decision if it could be 250 or more.
Okay, and then another question I had is, it says employee.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean our principals, all staff?
Yes, as long as it is a certified teacher.
Okay.
That's what our target focus is right now. So it could be anyone. It could be anyone in this room, and it could be for a certified teacher, a referral to the district.
Okay.
And cleared for hire as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more discussion? Ms. McFadden?
Madam Secretary, I would just like Mr. Foster to go over the numbers again.
Hold
Okay.
on, I was going to ask Ms. McFadden if she
I'm
has a
sorry.
comment. No, you're fine. Ms. McFadden, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Washington. No, well, I will say that I am glad that we are looking to giving incentives. However, I do feel like $250 is, it's something. And if people can do more than one, but there could also be room for someone who sends 5 people who actually get a contract and one person who sends 5 people and none of them get a contract. So I'd kind of be leery on that and how that process would work out.
Ms. Agostini?
I just wanted thank you, Dr. Foster, to repeat the numbers. That there was $2 million and we spent
So there's $2 million that was budgeted for the teacher sign-up, for the employee sign-in bonus. Based on our current projections of our staff now and the next payout will be in April, the total amount that the expenditure will be $1,630,033. $1,333. So $1,630,336 is the amount. That leaves a total of about $370,000 that would still be in that fund that has not been appropriated or used out of the funds that are there. And then as far as the incentives that we based on 100, we would like to have more, but on 100, at $250, the amount grossed up would be $42,084. At $500 incentive grossed up would be at 100 employees, would be $84,168. Ms. Williams, are my numbers correct based on what? Okay.
Mr. Trapp, did you have anything before we take the vote?
No, I didn't have any question.
Okay. All right. Board members, if there are no additional questions or discussion, let's vote.
Ms. Washington, the one thing that was not included in the motion was the amount.
And Madam Secretary, just want to let the board know that we did look at what our surrounding districts are offering for their retention bonus. And that is where the $250 came from, because that is the amount that we're seeing that most of the districts are offering.
So do I have permission to restate the motion with the correction?
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we?
To include an amount?
To include the
Just
amount?
somebody, yeah, just have somebody amend the motion.
Yes.
They're going to amend the motion to,
Include the amount.
yeah.
So it should state, I move to approve the employee referral incentive pilot goal with a $250 incentive.
Amend.
I move to amend the,
Go ahead.
talk to me, okay. I move to amend the previous motion, and I move to approve the employee referral incentive pilot goal to $250.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made to amend the motion so that she can.
Okay. Am I stating the statement for the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so the motion has been made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hear none. Board members, please vote. All right, the motion carries 4 yes and 2 abstain. Do we need to go back and do the original motion? All right, so may I have a motion? Go ahead.
I move to.
No, she doesn't need to restate it.
Okay.
You need to restate it. We're voting now on the motion that includes the amendment.
Thank you. We are now voting on the motion that includes the amendment. Thank you. So the motion was made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Thank you. The vote is 5 yes, 1 abstain. The motion carries. The next thing on our agenda is item 12.1, the agenda items for the March 12th meeting. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Our Tuesday, March 12, 2024 regular board meeting will begin with the public input session for the 2024-2025 budget. That will begin. The board will meet 5:30 p.m. So just want to make sure the public is aware that the budget section begins at 5 p.m., followed by a call to order for the regular scheduled board meeting at 5:30 p.m. When we begin our 5:30 p.m. meeting, we'll have our call to order. We'll move to approval of the agenda and then release into executive session. Our executive session will include student appeals, student admission request into our district adult education program, breach of contracts, employment recommendations, and certified releases. We will resume our public session at 6:30 p.m., followed by our inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance. Then move to the consent agenda, which will include the approval of minutes from previous meetings and classified employment, followed by voting on executive session items, including student appeals, student admission requests into the district's adult education program, breach of contracts, employment recommendations, and certified releases, and then as needed for items discussed in executive session. We'll move to section 9, which is unfinished business, action requested. This will be the second reading of the policy revision for policy BBA, board powers and duties. We'll move then to new business, no action requested. We will bring a proposal for the 2025-2026 school year calendar. Once that robust discussion has taken place, we will then move to the agenda items for the next meeting, which will be on March 26th. Executive session and voting on executive session, comments and adjournment.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Board members, are there any revisions or additions you would like to see made to the March 12th agenda or to a future agenda?
No, I would just like to see the agenda shortened because we, as well as the faculty and staff, work all day, and some of these things we can cut short no more than 2 to 3. So I would like to ask my colleagues to show a little more respect to our faculty and staff and our listening viewers, because these meetings go extremely late into the hour, and we shouldn't do that. That's disrespectful. So I'm going to say, when we read this off at meetings and then we go back and have an agenda meeting, we add 10,000 more things to it. So I'm going to say, be transparent when we read these things off at the board meeting. Let's keep it like that, because these meetings are going extremely too long. and it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Any other board members have any additional items? All right. Well, we don't have any additional public speaking. And it looks like we are at the end. I know. All right, so we are at item 16.1, board and superintendent comments, and I'm just going to go with the flow of how we started comments, discussions, and we'll start with Dr. Scott.
I want to go back from last week, last time we had a meeting. Of course, we had National School Counseling Week last week, so I want to say thank you for all the work that you guys do in our counseling division. We do appreciate all the things that you do. Want to say thank you to Kimberly Hutcherson. Had an opportunity to go to the stage, which was so amazing that she actually wrote. She's the principal for the Center for Achievement. So I want to say thank you, CFA. Want to say thank you. And also, CFA was recognized as a nationally certified magnet schools. So kudos to Mrs. Hutcherson and her team. Want to also say congratulations to Lisa Rayner. Lisa and I worked together at Pontiac for about 5 years. So I had a chance to witness firsthand the work that she does with the music department. And of course, she was recognized for the South Carolina Music Educators Association Hall of Fame. And also want to say kudos to all of those who took part in the 2024 Black History Month honorees. We have Ms. Council who's here with us tonight, and Dr. Marshall and many others. Want to say congratulations to appreciate that. And also, I want to say to the faculty and staff, please plan to come out on March 12th for the public input budget session, because I know you guys want to share your feedback, but not only share your feedback to us in emails, come out and let us see you and hear you so others can hear what you have to say about the budget. And then I want to end on a new Richland 2 baby that we have, Dr. Whitney Prowl. So excited. She's the principal of Sandlapper, so she has a beautiful baby girl that will be a part of Richland School District 2. So I want to say thank you all for a long night, and I'm done. Thank you.
First of all, Madam Secretary, well done tonight for your first try. You really did a great job conducting the meeting. Thank you so much. And also wanted to recognize and thank Bethel Hanbury for providing our inspirational moment tonight. They were certainly worth the wait, and what struck me even more than their amazing performance was their patience and their professionalism with those students while they stood there and waited for the music to be cued. I want to congratulate all of those that were recognized tonight. And then finally, just finish with a story today. I read at Lonnie B. Nelson through my local Rotary Club, and have to just share my experience with one of my readers. His name is Hassani today. Hassani has been in the U.S. for just over a year. I read with him once a month for 15 minutes, and the lead teacher there, Hassani is a little peanut, and he was Muhammad Ali. And while he's still struggling reading and with his English today, he recited his presentation to me, and off the top of his head. And the cutest part was when he got in his stance to fight, because they queued him up, and then he finished with, "And I fight like a butterfly and sting like a bee." And so I'll end on that great note tonight. Have a good evening.
Mr. Trapp?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Washington. The only thing I really want to do is express my gratitude to Ms. Portilla and the Bethel Hanbury students for their inspirational moment tonight, and for them being patient with us as we executive session a little long. And I hate to have some technical difficulty there, but they come through it pretty good. And I really I missed the performance because this phone connection did not work very well, so I missed out on it. I regret that, but again, I want to thank them for that. And was it just me, or it looked like they had a boom box there as the last resort, I guess, but it all worked out, and I'm glad they were able to do their part. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Ms. Porter?
Thank you. I wanted to thank all of the schools that sent out invitations for us to come and read for Black History Month, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Bethel Hanbury and Bridge Creek Elementary. Thank you so much for those invitations. And I know we can't make them all, but we definitely appreciate the invitations and the opportunities. Also, thank you to our 9 honorees. We went to that celebration last night, and I particularly enjoyed hearing their, and also our wax museum, our students from the elementary schools. They were amazing. Still thinking about our MLK Junior fella who just had so much energy and spunk, and he knew every single word to his speech and didn't have to look down once. So that was really good. And also our dancers that were led by Mr. Vince Thomas, there you go, our artist in residence. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And also today, I had the pleasure of going to the state capitol and spending some time with my sorority sisters there. And I also got a chance to see some of our E.L. Wright Law students visiting the Capitol as well. And they represented Richland too in their finest way. So kudos to those students as well. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden?
Okay, so I want to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Moore because they have implemented a new process of getting us the documents on Tuesday as opposed to Thursday so that we have ample time to review those documents, and I was able to ask all the questions that I wanted and needed to ask and get those answered from staff so that I didn't have a lot of questions and concerns. And I want to say thank you so much to the staff for doing that for me because I came in here with clear understanding for everything that I needed and had questions for. So thank you for implementing that and actually hearing the board members and addressing their concerns. So I appreciate that first and foremost. And I had a hard time with the last vote of $250 because I was thinking of Dr. Campbell and what he said about being a leader in HR, and I really wanted to say maybe we could do the 500, but since it is a pilot, I went ahead and voted for the 250. So hopefully next time that we'll be able to do the 500 so we can truly be like what he's calling us to be, and that's the leaders. And unfortunately, I was unable to attend the Black History program last night. My daughter had her cheer interest meeting. It was mandatory, so I'm sorry I couldn't be here, but it was at the same exact time, and I was trying to wait to see if I could finagle my time. But Dr. Franklin, congratulations, and Ms. Council, congratulations to you both.
Dr. Moore?
Thank you, Ms. McFadden. Staff worked really hard to fulfill that request that you made to us, and so we appreciate that we're getting that information out to the board in a timely manner so you can do what you need to do to better support our students. So we're happy that you like that. So I just have a few comments. I'm a science teacher, so I love a good science lesson. So I want to share with you, if you have not been to Westwood High School and experienced the Jeff O'Shields science experiments, you are truly missing out. Our cameras were there as Richland 2 trustee. Our board secretary, Trustee Tamika Washington, was his assistant for some explosive science lessons in his 9th grade earth science class. And just so that you know that I'm speaking the truth, we have a video to show you.
So I just wanted to welcome everybody to our class. All right. I'm ready. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm just really big on providing hooks and getting the students' attention. All right, so we'll put this in, and you know how alcohol evaporates pretty fast? All right, I'm going to swirl it to allow the alcohol to coat the bottle but I just want vapors. I don't want liquid. All right, I'm gonna pour out any liquid, which shouldn't be much. Give me a 3, 2, 1 countdown.
3, 2, 1.
Because even the most motivated or self-motivated student, they get bored easily. I think sometimes if you can grab their attention and hook them from the get-go, it's much easier then to get into the more challenging content. All right, now for the trick. And we're going to do it twice because I want you to see this sucker. We're going to put it in and we're going to hold it steady, not all the way to the bottom, just hold it in the liquid. And just hold it real steady. Now I'm hoping it'll change. I might have made the water too dark. It's a little dark initially. Can you see how it's changing color? We're going to do it again. I'll make the water a little lighter. Can y'all see the color change? What color does it look like now? All right, up here it actually green. Can you see green? Oh, here. Can y'all see that now? Good. That was good. All right, let's try it again. And everybody watch carefully. I have a feeling this one may go faster. I hope. All right, there we go. Can you see it? And it's real. You have to be really careful. You got to have enough of the potassium permanganate, but not too much. And that was good. That was good. Keep it in there. And the longer it's in there, it just gets slower. It takes time, but it should go to yellow. It goes. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you'll get a red color, but not always. Here we go.
All right, y'all ready?
You hold it, I'll scoop.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Flammable ice. I'll tell you the trick. I'll give the trick away though. I'll tell you.
That expression is priceless, priceless.
How did you do this?
All right. Y'all didn't see me put some of the nuggets on the bottom of the dish, right? All right, I did. Ice made of water, right? Frozen water. When all that water hits the calcium carbide, what gas is released? I better hear it in here because y'all should know by now. It starts with an A. What kind of gas is released when the calcium carbide hits water? They use it in the miners' lamps on their head. Come on.
Acetylene.
Good. Acetylene. Learning doesn't have to be boring. There's nothing wrong with keeping the joy in learning and keeping the joy in teaching. So this is year 33 and it feels like year 1. So, all right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
So that is a purpose-driven educator who is inspiring future-ready scientists. And let's give our assistant some credit because she did a great job. Watching that video makes me want to go back into the classroom and teach some more science because we know science helps you think. Also want to celebrate the Longleaf Middle SPED Job Shadow Day at Chick-fil-A. Now, this connecting of the classroom to the community, is our goal for every lesson, and that's our goal for all of our students. So for our Longleaf Middle School SPED students, it was a life-changing learning experience as they connected their classroom lessons to the community by job shadowing at their local Chick-fil-A. So watch this video to see how much our students enjoy this opportunity.
Wet your hands first. Yeah. So you're going to do
My name is Bernice Kernan, and I'm the Career Specialist at Longleaf Middle School, and we are privileged to be here today at Chick-fil-A with our SPED class on Job Shadow Day to give them the opportunity to see the world of work and to see the many options that are out here for them to do.
Sure, sanitize on both sides. Even though the food doesn't go on the trays, it's only sit on the trays. We want to make sure all of our trays are sanitized for all of our guests.
So in honor of, to recognize American Heart Association, they're going to hand out roses, and also they're having a little opportunity to see how Chick-fil-A works behind the scenes. So customer service, cleanliness, speed of service, customer care, all that's going to be kind of walked through today. So we're just excited to be a partner with this group.
You would say this is a hard to remind you. This is our rose to remind you.
These students get to see jobs that they will be able to do and get an experience of what it's like to be out in the working world and see the soft skills they need to use, talking to people, and here at Chick-fil-A they have shown them a lot of different things that they could do. This experience really excites me. It makes me so happy that our students are able to get out in the working world and have this opportunity to see why they're in school, why they're learning what they're learning, and to put it to work and see what they can do one day.
So I want them to have something that they can rely on and depend on within themselves in order to go out and be productive members of society. That's why I do what I do.
It's wonderful, and I love doing this. And this has been amazing to come to Job Saturday.
It proves that my hard work does not go in vain. Even in the moments when we have in class where I think they're not receiving what I'm saying, I see them out in the real world and they receive everything that I'm telling them. They receive that boost of, Ms. Hopkins knows I can do it, so I can do it. I have to learn to believe in myself. I see that come to fruition and it makes me feel good.
I want to be a preacher and work at Chick-fil-A.
Work at Chick-fil-A?
Yes, ma'am. Longleaf is like my home, like a home to me. And I love everybody, love the teachers. The teacher is nice. Our principal, Ms. Boyd, yes. Leopard believes leopard.
Now, isn't that special? And I want to give a big thank you to our Clemson Road Chick-fil-A for partnering with us on this important workforce training opportunity. They also provided additional meals last night at the Black History celebration for students, because while we had our shoe boxes and had a history lesson as a part of our dinner, we knew that the kids, Dr. Grant knew the kids would want something a little more current to their taste buds, and Chick-fil-A stepped up once again to do that, so thank you. Our Ridgeview West African percussion performance. You had to be there to truly witness this phenomenal performance by Ridgeview High School World Percussion Ensemble at the South Carolina Music Educators Conference. So I just want to show you a brief clip about that because it was remarkable.
We're just super pumped that we were able to be invited and do this.
Out of the 4-H, we expect success in the arts, and thanks to great educators like Mr. Hemp, that they're continuing to deliver a phenomenal Foundations Arts program for our Ridgeview Blazers.
been working for what, since October? Since September. This is all we've been on this. That last song specifically, it took us so long. I'm finally glad that we were able to perform it in front of all these people. And it's a very important event, man. Yo. Who else wants to go to Ridgeview? Join the Steel Pan program. It's very fun. I did it in my junior year. You should do it any year you go to Ridgeview. It's a good thing to do.
I just want to tell y'all, amazing is an understatement, because when the lights went out and y'all was playing, that was the epitome. I was scared. I was not expecting you to turn around. Thank you.
So the young man that's in the center, the tall one, too, I want to say a big congratulations to our musicians and music director, Mr. Wes Hips. His passion for music transfers powerfully to our students. And just to let everybody know, once again, Ridgeview basketball team is in the state semifinals. That young man that's in the middle of the steel drums, he's the three-point shooter for Ridgeview boys basketball team, and he is good. So we know that they are going to be successful. We're just going to claim that victory. They'll be playing tomorrow night along with the Ridgeview women's basketball team in the state semifinals in Florence. So we want to wish them the best of luck, and we look forward to them being very successful. And the last thing I want to say is thank you to my wax museum person. There was a young lady last night at the Black History celebration who was me. Yes, it was so cute. It was so cute. And she actually doing this, and I had on a red jacket, and she stood just like me. I said, I'm gonna have to learn to smile a little more, because she was I'm Dr. Kim Moore. I am this and that. I was like, yes, she was just so cute. So I just want to tell her thank you. She made my night. That's all I have, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. So as you all can see, there's so many exciting things that are worth celebrating in our Richland 2 community. And I want to just take a moment during this time to share a few highlights of the collective work of your school board members. In our last annual school board conference, they said that anytime you have a new board member join your board, you become a new board. And during this month, I'm reminded of a quote from Frederick Douglass that says, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. So tonight in my closing comments, I want to highlight the work that your Richland 2 School Board trustees are doing to the community. So people may not think this is something big, boards that don't operate with norms. And we set goals because we want our stakeholders to know that we are prioritizing what is important, and we are exemplifying civility, and we're staying focused on the student outcomes. You hear that in our board meetings by the questions that we ask. You just heard this evening that we email Dr. Moore a lot of questions, and we get answers. We approve bonuses for all employees, including our guest teachers. Why? Because we value the work that you do. And while money may not be the answer to the many issues, we believe in showing all of our employees the appreciation for the work that you do every day. Your board members, listen, we do visit schools, but that's a requirement, but we're also showing up we're going to basketball games. We're doing a lot. We're in the community, learning happening, and we have great talent in this district. You know what? We are so proud that a successful audit was submitted, and it was submitted on time. And why are we proud of that? Because we all took an oath that we are going to be fiscally responsible in this district, and we have a leader who shares the same vision. We invest in learning. Consultants have come and they've done workshops with us on how to do the evaluation process of our one employee. We've done topics like goal settings, and we've even self-evaluated ourselves and looked at ways that we need to become better. We attend conferences and we learn about how to set policies. And I will say, I had my book here ready, but I did not want to be seen flipping through here to find that answer. So thank you so much to Dr. Scott and to Ms. Agostini for being a team. They could have sat here and allowed me to fail, but I want to say thank you that you didn't. I really appreciate it because effort. We read your emails, staff and Washington, because I don't get a lot of your emails, but we're always looking at ways to tackle issues like discipline. 5 of us went to a conference and we all walked out of there going, we need to tell Dr. Moore about this because this is phenomenal work. So we're listening. We're talking about retention. When we heard the study tonight, every one of us, I'm sure, were clapping under our desk because we've been saying this for so long. Classified employees are important and they're vital to our school community. And guess what, employees? It's not on the agenda, but I'm going to say it. We're planning to engage with our employees. When that date comes out, we want to see your faces because we're also here for you. And so I wanted to take this time to tell the public that we are working. And it may look like a struggle from time to time, but believe me, there is progress going on in Richland too. And with that being said, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
I move that we adjourn the February 27th board meeting.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Porter and seconded by Ms. Agostini. Is there any discussion? Oh, hand vote, please. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Mr. Trapp?
I am raising my right hand.
Yes, 0 no, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.